You can also, by a show of hand, let us know when you want to say something. You can raise your hand when you have something to say. I may also at times randomly call out on names. So be prepared. It's nothing much. It's about what the book has taught you. What have you learned from the pages of this book? 12 different ladies from 12 different backgrounds with 12 different experiences in 12 different careers is a good collection to learn from. And I know this evening is going to be, a learning further moment. We have taken time to read the book. I have read some part of the book. You have read some part of the book. But the way we internalize things vary one from another. You may just elaborate on something that probably did not come out clear for me. So feel free to share some of the insights that you have captured from this writing. And I know it's going to be an exciting evening. So as others continue to come in, I take this special opportunity to welcome you, Ized, Glory Sereti, Janet J, Sianto Kekayaya, and Zion Pearl Publishers, who is also our host. Feel very welcome. So I'm one of the people who has taken time to look through the pages of this book. And I can attest for sure that I'm not where I was before I interacted with this book. I've grown in a ways that probably I would have had to pay a lot of money to be where I am. I'm looking at some of the things these ladies have shared, and you're like, this would cost me a lot to just sit in a class to be taught some of these things. And there are varieties of things that I've learned, varieties of strategies that I've learned from these ladies, the authors of How We Rise. And I know you also have learned something. And maybe just to start us off, there's one thing that really stood out for me. There's one thing that really stood out for me, and I think this was shared even in our last Tuesday webinar, and this came from it's from Michelle, that we should not wait to be invited. Stand out, take a step, go into what you want. Let people know this is what I want. Ask for what you want. Do not wait to be invited. As women, being in Africa, and some of the cultural issues that suppress us into becoming who we really are called to be, sometimes you may be afraid to just show up and cite out, this is what I'm interested in. This is what I want. And we are told if you're going to remain quiet just because you're afraid of what might they say, what will they think of me, how will they see me, what if I say it and I don't manage it? We are called upon to speak out. We are called upon to ask for what we want and not wait to be invited. You may never be invited forever. If you wait on an invitation, you may just wait for the rest of your life. So as women who are well equipped, we are empowered, we are continuing to be empowered. Just know that it is your responsibility to take a step and walk into what you feel, what you know you want to do, and not just sit back and wait to be invited. I think starting us up with that really stood out for me. And it is one thing that I'm going to practice. I don't want to say I've started practicing it, but it is something that I'm going to practice, because looking at my growth, there are places I have stagnated, not because I don't have the capacity and the skills, but because I've been afraid of what will people say? What will they think of me? What if I tell them I can, then I realize I can't? So I've been shrinking back, not anymore. The book, How We Rise, has empowered me and has triggered me to be able to move to my next phase and my next level in my growth. So if you're there and there is something you have learned from the book, feel free to raise your hand. Let us know you want to share something with us, and we will give you a listening ear. It is an interactive session, so do not let me talk alone. Let us interact. Let us interact. You may have just read a chapter. You may have done 2. You may have just read chapter 12 and not any other, depending on how attractive or beckoning the title of the chapter was. So I open the floor for us. Speak up, share with us, let us know what you have learned. If you're just joining us, feel very welcome. Today, our webinar is an open forum where readers of the book, How We Rise, have decided to come together and just share some of the insights they have picked from the book. And I can see there is a hand up, and this is none other than Dooso Radido. The floor is yours. Please let us listen to what you have learned from the book, How We Rise. You're welcome.
Well, thank you so very much, Dottie. My name is Dooso Radido. I work with Zampa Publishers, the company behind the project, How We Rise, and many other projects that we are doing. About the kind of impact that this project is already creating. When we were working on the plan for the project and designing how it will go, one of the things we wanted to achieve with this was to build something that can provoke the audiences, the readers, the women, those who had probably gone into a situation where they doubt themselves, feel like they are not capable, or those who do not know that they're actually able to do stuff because they have so many people who have not been woken up yet. So we wanted to produce a material that can provoke, that can awaken, that can challenge. So I am very keen to see the experience of those who have interacted with the book or even interacted with the authors themselves, to just see what that does to we took this project on and have been able to produce something that is now continuing to create an impact out there. Listening to what was going on in the last webinar that we had last week on Tuesday, just going through the comments about how people are responding to the insights that were being shared by Michelle and Coletta, and also looking at how the energy fell on the people that attended the launch that we had on the 2nd of August. How that has been a spike of inspiration, and it has been a trigger that has provoked some people and woken other people up. And now many people are feeling like, yeah, if so and so can do it, and that is her background, then I think I can also do it, because it looks like I'm doing better than where they were when they started, and that's a very, very beautiful thing. So that the impact that is being created by the project, the kind of provocation that the project is creating, and the contribution to both personal and corporate momentum that this project is doing and is going to do, gives me a lot of pride, a lot of pleasure, because I know that here we have something that will, for a very long time, help so many people, and we are hoping that help will contribute to the growing momentum and the growing value that we are generating from amongst ourselves. I've always been a believer that there is a huge untapped resource in women that we actually need to tap into and convert into useful value for the benefit of the women themselves, and also for the benefit of all of us as a society. Because when I look at communities that have embraced women, have embraced their creativity, their energy, their ingenuity, their contribution, their humanness, those communities are actually doing much, much better than communities that are not doing that. Because you see, when you suppress this group of people, you're suppressing a resource. And in many spaces, the number of women usually is higher than the number of men. So if you suppress that in the name of gender or culture or whatever thing you want to call that, you are actually suppressing a useful resource that can be used to generate value or to add value to what's already ongoing. To the lessons that I have learned, recently I was reading a chapter I was reading a chapter. Of course, this one is done by Michelle Kagari. I think Michelle was with us last week. And there's a place where she has talked about two things which I think are very, very important for me, because those are lessons that they are universal, that even me as a man, I'm able to learn from. Number one, she says in page 139, complacency can stifle success. And success for me, success is a build-up of energy, a build-up of strategy, a build-up of intelligence and wisdom, and a build-up of drive and intentionality going forward. So if you go to a place where you are complacent, to think, to act, to plan, to strategize, to wake up, to move, or to better what you have already achieved, or to even think different or start new things, or rise again when you have fallen, or even rise again when you have succeeded. The moment you begin to enter into the zone of complacency, then you are beginning to freeze your success. If you are good, you can maintain the success, but a lot of times you cannot produce better than you have produced already if you embrace or you get into a space where you are beginning to be complacent. The other important lesson that I'm picking from her chapter is the importance of saying yes to opportunities and then figuring out what to do after you have embraced that opportunity. And that is found in page 138, where she's talking about lesson 3, aim high and take risks. So she says you have to just grab the opportunity and then try to figure out. Of course, a bit of that figuring out is embracing the attitude of learning and embracing the attitude of curiosity, to try to see what can I do with the opportunity that I've already grabbed here, or what don't I know that I need to know. And I feel the journey of rising has to involve the embrace of risk taking and the embrace of saying yes to opportunities. It's very comfortable and easy to say yes to things that you know you can do, or things that you know you have done before, or things that are in your assessment are falling within your capacity profile or your capability profile. That's very much okay. But sometimes rising requires that you are saying yes to things that are bigger than you, that you will grow into. And a lot of times, leadership in itself is saying yes to things that you are growing into, so that by the time you're done doing leadership, if you look at how you look like when you're done compared to how you look like when you started, usually there is a growth that has happened to you. So that in essence, leadership changes people. You cannot be a leader and you remain the same. One of the things that happens constantly to leadership, to people in leadership, is that they keep changing and they keep looking like the direction they're going into, or they keep looking like the vision they're trying to attain and stuff like that. So those are two very important lessons that I'm taking from that chapter. That's the chapter that I'm currently on. That is chapter number 8 by Michelle Kagari. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Doso. Thank you for sharing what you have learned. As you share it, it becomes more clearer. Sometimes when we read, our internalization differs one from another. I may get something that the other person is not getting. So when we come together and everyone is sharing from, like what you talked about, say yes, and know how you're going to go about it later. That is one of the things I had wanted to share. But you see, you also caught it. So when we come to share like we are doing now, then we get into the depths of understanding what actually this writer means. Thank you so much. I know someone is already prepared to speak again. I want to refer to something from the chapter written by Josephine Kamande Ndambuki. Josephine has written chapter 4, and she has titled her writing, A World of Opportunities, A World of Opportunities. And she says, it is a world of opportunities. Kindly stay muted unless you've been given permission to speak. Thank you. Josephine says, it is a world of opportunities, with our imaginations being the limit of what we can achieve and become. It is a world of opportunities, with our imaginations being the limit of what we can achieve and become. I'm just, as I look into that sentence, or maybe call it a quote, I'm just realizing that there are so many limitations that I have put on myself. holistically. There are areas that I would have done better than I am currently, simply because I put some limitations. It all depends on me, it all depends on me to become that which I know I should be. But when I limit myself, nobody else can limit you. If you choose to become, no one else can put an obstacle that can withhold you back. But when you yourself see yourself as limited, then you can only grow to the level where you have decided this is where I can grow. So the world is a place of opportunities. Every other day we are offered with opportunities. Some we have said no to. Some we have done a mediocre job with. Some we have tried our best. Maybe we did succeed the first time, but there's always another time to try and become better. So even as we share this evening, I'm waiting for someone to raise up their hand and tell us what they're learning, what they've taken home, what strategies they plan to use to become better people than they are today, so that we keep the conversation moving. So as you prepare to raise your hand, I'm very keen on raised hands. I'm not seeing any so far. Okay, so it is a world of opportunities, with our imaginations being the limit of what we can achieve. As a Christian, the Bible says that as a man thinketh, so is he. So if you think less of yourself, then that is exactly what you will become. If you think better of yourself, that is exactly what you will become. So let us imagine big, let us dream big. If you're not in a position to probably speak because of your environment, kindly you can also share your lessons in the chat box. Just drop something, let us read from you and get to know some of the lessons you have learned. So feel free to send a message in the chat box. Feel free to send a message in the chat box. Share with us anything. It could be a statement that intrigued you. It could be a quote, that taught you a lesson or something. You don't have to necessarily talk about the author entirely on their entire writing, but at least there is something you picked from the book. It could just be a quote that one of them used that you found interesting or you found making meaning unto you. Elizabeth Msengeti, you're very welcome. I can see your hand up. Please share with us your lessons. Karibu.
Yeah, hi Dottie. Hi everyone. I will not put my video on because I'm listening as I'm in transit headed home. But you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
So I really enjoyed, so I've got the book, but I haven't read it yet. But the reason I got the book was because I attended the webinar where Coletta Masharia and Michelle Magari were speaking. And there's something that each of them said that really stood out for me. One,
Elishiba, I'm sorry you're breaking.
I don't know if this is also in the, but I know Coletta gave this example in the last, when she worked and she went back to work and had a scheme for her mother's room. Can you hear? Dottie, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but you're breaking.
Oh, okay. It's probably because I'm on the road.
Yeah, it is better now.
Is it a bit better?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So I was giving an example from what Coletta said in the last webinar.
Yes.
About an experience where she went back to work and had a small baby, and she basically asked whether she could get a place to pump milk. And everyone was like, this has never been done. We don't know if it's a possibility. And then it was a possibility and it became like a policy for the company, and there's now.
Yes.
Our mother's room, I think, to date. And she said, I think she left the organization, but she left it with the mother's room.
We lost you.
And the text, tying back to what you were saying, how sometimes offer things, but sometimes we actually have to say that maybe let me see if I can get to a better place and then I'll try and speak again.
Okay. Thank you so much. Elishaba is sharing with us what she got from Coletta in our last week's webinar. And she's given an example of a story Coletta shared, that when she went back to job, she actually reached out to the seniors and asked if they could get a place to breastfeed and take care of the young ones. Sometimes it looks impossible just because we have not spoken about it. It looks impossible because we have not tried. So it is important to always try before you can conclude that it is impossible. And as she talks about Coletta, I also remember Coletta talked about seasons. She talked about seasons, and she said it is very important. If we are ever going to grow, it is very important to understand seasons. Sometimes we are in denial of the seasons we are in. Sometimes our seasons have come to an end, but we are still there grieving, having a pity party about it. She said it is important to acknowledge your season. It is important to grieve if necessary, and it is important for you to adapt. You can't remain in the same state. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe there was change of something in your workplace. You can't remain there grieving. Number one, you must acknowledge, yes, it is true, this change has occurred. Yes, it is true, I have suffered this loss, but then grieve over it for a period of time and then just quickly adapt so that you continue moving. Otherwise, you will be stagnated. So thank you so much for reminding us of what Coletta said in our last webinar. She looked into some of the strategies she has included in her writing. And I know we are learning something from her as well. So thank you so much, Elshiba. If you get to a better place, you can lower your hand. If you raise it again, I will call on you to just share something with us again. So any other person having anything to share, either in writing or spoken? Either in writing or spoken? You can chat us in the chat box. You can raise your hand. Glory Sereti. I can see Glory Sereti has raised her hand. Glory Sereti, the floor is yours. Let us get to know what you have learned. Karibu sana. Glory, you're welcome. Okay, she has requested for a minute. She'll be back. We are waiting. Glory, when you're ready, please share with us what you have picked from the writings of how we rise. I remember also one thing. I asked a question. Personally, I asked a question if having a mentor is necessary and how to identify a quality mentor. And one of the things that the two panelists who were with us on the previous webinar said that the position of a mentor is indispensable. It is indispensable. If you are a young person, young in age, young in family, young in career, and you look at coming up and growing to greater heights, then it is very vital for you to find somebody who has been where you want to be. It may be difficult navigating alone, but when you have someone walking alongside you, guiding you, showing you the pitfalls, giving you direction, then it may be possible for you to rise to where you really want. So they both say the place of a mentor is a place in our career growth. It is indispensable. So we, as we listen to them, those of us who are still growing, and I know nobody stops growing, we grow every other day. You achieve this, you want the next level, and it continues like that. Just know that you need a mentor, someone who has been where you want to be, and allow them to guide you. Be open with them. Allow them to celebrate your milestones. Allow them to correct you when you don't do things the right way. Allow them to overindulge in your affairs, because then they can help you to become the person you really want to become. I don't know if Glory Sereti is back. I can see your hand is up. Okay, it seems probably she's still preparing to speak. So can we find another person talking about something they picked from this writing? I will be picking lessons randomly from the authors. I will not be always specific to an author. My collection of lessons, the other thing that I learned is that it is a necessity to invest in growth. It is a necessity, it is not optional. You know, if you're going to stay relevant, then you have to constantly and continually learn, and not just learn things that are in line with your current career. Learn even things that are outside your career, because a time may appear or a time may avail itself that career may be useful for you. So if you're ever going to grow career-wise, then you really have to constantly and continually learn. You know, take courses, learn some skills, learn some languages, learn something new that you can add to the qualifications or to the credential that you already have. So that is another thing that came to me as a very strong reminder that I should not be contented. If I have achieved something, maybe I have achieved great heights, I have grown to, to those top positions, that should not be the stopping point for me. Even as a CEO, even as a director, you still can empower yourself. You still can grow yourself, invest in your growth. Yes, and Glory Sereti says she's back. And we will straight away allow you to share, to continue with what you're saying.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm really sorry for that. Okay. So, firstly, I want to thank Mr. Radido for the opportunity that he gave me as one of the volunteers for the event. I've never attended a meeting of such, and honestly, I'm still a student. I'm still a second year student. So it was such a mind blowing thing to actually be among great people at such a young age. Okay, so far from the book, what really caught my eye was from Perpetua Bulemi, the quote where she said, "Just because you feel the fear doesn't mean you cannot do it. Do it afraid." I've really since then, even from the time she spoke from the event, this quote really stuck with me, because just because you feel the fear doesn't mean you cannot do it afraid. Actually, for me, even I was afraid to speak. Like, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to say? What if I mess up? But I was like, no, just do it, just say yes to everything. So yeah, that's what I really took from this book. And even from Lucy Wairimu, where she said, I took the stairs. I remember from the event, Doti, while you are there in front, you said like, if you take the stairs and you reach up, when you reach there, remember to send the elevator. Uh, Let me say like this is like a pledge in the future. If I manage to become something or successful, I will remember that line from you, that it's good to help others. If you have reached there, just help others. And another thing that I've learned from the book is start early. Start early. Uh, I can't really remember the name clearly, but either one or two authors, I remember I read where they started their journey from school, from campus, they started working. So after graduation, it's like it was a continuous thing. So this start early is that experience really spoke to me. Like what I learned from that is that as much as I'm in school, I'm not supposed to just sit there and just be reading and wait to graduate and all that. I need to start early. I need to, if any opportunity comes, I need to just say yes. So that when I reach out, so that when I graduate, I'll have something, I'll have many experiences that will work with me and guide me. So thank you so much. Thank you again, Mr. Radido, for the opportunity. Thank you so much, Dorothy, for that.
Thank you, Glory. Listening to you, I'm reminded of a lesson that we should create room for others. You know, when we are sending down the elevator, it is a form of creating room. If a leader is ever going to grow, if a career woman is ever going to grow, and you never want anyone to rise close to where you are, then it may be impossible. Because people have to come occupy the spaces below you for you to rise to the next level. So one of the lessons that this lady is sharing, and it is like cutting across most of them, is that be able to pull up people with you. Lift up people with you. We rise by lifting others. So that's also another lesson for me. Sometimes we can be very mean and egocentric. All we think about is ourselves, is what we want to become, is where we want to reach. But what about the people around us? Are we creating room for them? Are we pulling them along with us? Are we sending down the elevator? So this is also another lesson that you have just reminded me as you were speaking, that we should always create room. You know, if it means having some bias on gender, then we may have to, so that we can rise as women. You know, it is sweeter when we rise together. It is sweeter when we rise together. So thank you so much, Sereti. That has also just reminded me what I have said. So as we continue, I promised her that I might randomly do some call outs. So if you hear your name, just cooperate, you know, but we will want you, it will be better if you raised your hand and just shared from what you have learned. So we encourage you to raise your hand. Before we continue, Mr. Doso Radido, you seem to be having some more lessons. Could you just share with us one more? Thank you for the two that you already shared. We need to hear something more. Being the founder of this project, I know you have a lot of interest in the book, and you're very keen to see that the impact that you had in mind when coming up with this project is realized. So what more have you learned from this book?
Well, thank you so very much, Dottie. You've ambushed me here. Well, I'll talk about a bit of what I wrote in the introduction. When I was writing this introduction, because I did the introduction to the book basically, and I was just looking at what I have heard. Like I said the other day, for the last 3 years, I think every single day I have spoken to a woman, because of the nature of work that I do. So even today, I spoke to a couple of them. Even tomorrow, I have a meeting scheduled for a couple others, even on the day that follows after. So almost every single day, I've spoken to a woman, and that has happened for the last 3 years. So if you look at the amount of data that translates to, I have come to know a lot of things. And you know, one of the things that I do when I'm speaking to people is to ask them questions. And one of the common questions I ask people is, are you happy? And if they tell me they are happy, I would ask, why are you happy? And if they tell me they are not happy, I would ask, why are you not happy? And speaking to women, I post that question a lot. And I got to know a lot of things. So when I was writing this introduction, I basically was writing it from a reflective standpoint, because I came to realize that we may be living in the same space, but we are not experiencing the world the same way. I actually came to learn that it feels different being a woman from how it feels being a man. And that easily plays out when we come to how that looks like when people get into leadership. For example, when a woman is a leader, what does that mean? What does that translate to in terms of responsibility? And when a man is a leader, what does that mean? A lot of times when a man is a leader in their place of work, usually at home, they have been relieved of a lot of duties and they're excused for that, so that even if they stay long in the office or they work long or they have work-related trips and stuff like that, they're just able to go and they delegate a lot of their responsibilities and roles to the people who remain at home, who are mostly their wives and the caretakers at home and anybody who's there. But when a woman is leaving or becoming a leader, a lot of times she does not delegate that. She has to do this and again go back to do that. Even if she delegates, she still remains in charge of that and somehow continues to lead both at home and even in their place of work. So that if you look at how women experience the burden or the load of leadership, it's completely different. So when I was writing this, I wanted to know how have experts described the different situations and scenarios that women have gone through. And I came up with a list of about 20 or so terms that have been used to describe different situations that different women find themselves in. One of the one that fascinates me a lot is what is called the labyrinth, which is actually a complex and winding path that women must navigate to achieve leadership positions. And if you look at even achieving success or rising or becoming anything, it is never a straight line for a woman compared to how it is for men. I know men face their fair share of challenges, but if you look at how it plays out for women, it looks like a labyrinth. It's a network of very many meandering paths that somebody has to follow and try to balance here and balance there, and sometimes leave one thing to be able to attend to another thing, or if they decide to attend to both, then they are like have to do it like halfway, etc. Like if you look at what parenting does to women and what parenting does to men, looks like parenting slows women down because they have to slow down to be available at home, especially when the kids are still young or very needy or they have special needs, etc. So they have to slow down. So if you look at how they have to meander around those kind of obstacles and issues for them to rise, what a man takes 5 years to achieve in terms of rising into positions of leadership, a woman may take 10 or 15 years, unless she decides she doesn't want to have a family at the same time. But a lot of times when a woman is making a decision to, like, say, for example, start a family, she's actually at the same time making a decision to slow down or to stop doing some career-related things so that she can attend to her family or attend to this stuff that are happening at home. So the labyrinth is one of those things that is one of the terms that experts have used to describe the complex and winding path that women must go through. And of course, there is the leaky pipeline. I'm just going to use those two, which describes a phenomenon where women have to drop out of career progression at various stages. And we know reasons why they drop. Sometimes they drop for their children, sometimes they drop for pregnancy, sometimes they drop for other natural biological processes that they go through. Sometimes they drop for their husbands. And I think for me, one of the biggest realization that I came to see or I came to learn came from a woman I was talking to, who said that in many instances when women get into marriage, usually they shelve their dreams so that they can either support the dreams of their husbands or they can fit into marriage. So there are so many women whose dreams have been shelved, and it is very easy actually for a woman to shelve her dream in order to support the dream of their husband for the marriage to work and stuff like that. So if this was a career woman, for example, she would have to like leak out of the pipeline. And as I said, they can drop out of the pipeline for so very many reasons. So if you look at the dropout rates for women compared to the dropout rates for men, it's very, very high for women. And actually, a term like this one was now coined to describe that kind of a situation. So that as we look at navigating for women and rising for women, somebody must be able to know what strategies am I putting in place or around myself to be able to deal with the leaks that are likely to happen along my pipe, so that you move with strategy, you move with understanding, and you move with knowledge, because It's a reality. It's a fact that you are likely to bump onto some of these obstacles or some of these issues that have caused other women to drop out. And therefore, learning from people who have gone through that becomes something. Last week, when we were listening to Coletta, she said something very, very important about her husband. She said that she has a very supportive husband who is able to support her at home, take care of the kids when need be, and only allows her to attend to issues that can only be done by her. While she's doing that, she's able to advance, to progress in her career. So if you look at the strategy, one of the strategies she has used is to make sure that she has a partner who is understanding. I don't know whether they had agreed about this at the beginning or they agreed about this in the course of their marriage journey. But eventually, when it shows up like that, then the leaks that are likely to happen because of family responsibilities or the demand that comes on women from the family side, somebody is able to navigate that and somehow be able to create some kind of progression or advancement for themselves that would make them look different from other women who probably do not have that as a strategy in their hands. Thank you so very much. Back to you, Dottie.
Thank you, Radijo. You see, it was important to have you speak. Thank you for clarifying some of those nuggets that are those terms, those terminologies that mean various things for women. Women are a special species. There's a lot, they're even finding words to define them. There's a lot of limitations that is being put on us so that we can just remain in the same place. Thank you so much for sharing. I would want somebody else to speak if there's anyone with a lesson that they feel they will not leave this place without sharing with us. You can just raise your hand. I'll give you an opportunity to speak. We are ready to listen. We are here to listen to ourselves today. So karibu sana, Catherine Mate. It's good having you join in. You're very welcome. And even as we wait for someone else to also willingly share with us their lesson, I'm remembering something about attitude is everything. That is such a strong statement. Attitude is everything. How we approach situations and how we react to situations depends on what happens next. So we must understand who we are. That is another point on its own. I'm trying to bring it together with this particular one. You really must understand who you are. And this will help you to know how to react to the circumstances around you. Because as a career woman, it may not be possible for you to decide what happens to you. Sometimes the things that happen to us are not our choices. We are victims of circumstances. They just come upon us. But if you know who you are and you know whose you are, this was spoken about by Coletta, understanding your identity, so sure of who you are that regardless of the circumstances around you, your identity remains firm. In times of uncertainties, you remain firm because you know who you are. This can guide our attitude because when I know exactly who I am, I know exactly what I have, I know what I can do, and I know who is helping me. As a believer, I know God is my help. Regardless of my professional qualifications, alongside me is a power that is too powerful to be defeated. So when you understand your identity, when you're so sure of who you are, then you can easily navigate some challenges that will otherwise put you down, never to rise again. We talked about, the author talked about attitude, and she says it is key, it is fundamental. It can bring you up and it can bring you down. And alongside that, she was mentioning about leveraging networks. It is your attitude that will allow you to want to work with other people. How do you perceive others who are in the same career as yourself? How do you think of those who have gone ahead of you? I believe as an individual that in every given time in life, I should be having somebody mentoring my life, and I should have somebody mentoring my life. I should have my peers, the people with which we can discuss at the same level, and there should be someone who is looking up unto me as a mentor. So Your attitude will determine what becomes of you. We are encouraged to be aware of ourselves, to be aware of who we are, and to be aware of whose we are. Coletta talked about something that I could attach to that, and she called it PBI, personal being indicators. You know, sometimes we don't understand ourselves. So when we are overwhelmed with career stuff, we don't know what to do to ourselves. We are so workaholics that we spend our entire hours of the day just working. You know, as I listened, I'm borrowing so much from the last webinar, because now that was their second time speaking. So it sinks deeper than just reading the book. Sometimes we don't know what to do with ourselves. We don't know when to stop. We are always working and working and working. We don't nourish our souls. You know, I learned that it is necessary to sometimes take a break, know when to stop. You know, don't carry work to family time, and don't carry family time to work. Know when to stop, know when to nourish your soul. Find something that you love, find something that you enjoy. And like Coletta put it, it could be, she could set a time sometime just to dance. Maybe reading a book is how you rejuvenate yourself. But always make sure that as much as you're working hard, as much as you're pursuing your goals, be aware of your personal being indicators. Take time to nourish your soul. Do something that you enjoy. You know, career women, we have a lot, especially if you're a career woman who is also family person. A lot of balance is required, or one will suffer at the expense of the other. You know, one of the examples that Michelle gave is that there was a time she was so much into work stuff that the husband reached out and said, hey, I think this is affecting us. And she had to find ways, you know, of coming up with how to manage her time so that there is a proper division of time, so that work doesn't eat family time and family time doesn't eat work time. So these are many lessons combined together, but I think they marry each other. They agree with each other. And these are some of the things I'm learning, and I'm also learning to apply, so that I'm not working 24/7. You know, you don't have time for your children. They're brought up by the nanny. They pick characters from the nanny. Later on, you're surprised, why aren't my children turning out like I expected them to be? You know, your husband becomes alone, no time to attend to his needs. And a question came up. Somebody asked this particular question: how do you balance between career, family, and self? You see, that is why the PBIs is very important. Understanding your personal being indicators is very important for you to be able to balance well, so that no side thrives at the expense of the other. As we continue, I'm still looking at us. If there's anyone raising their hand wanting to share something, feel free. It could be a quote. It could just be one statement that you read that stood out for you. It can also stand out for someone else who probably has not read the book. And thank you so much. Msengeti is back and she would like to say something. After that, we will have Catherine Mate. Catherine, are you liking or wanting to speak? I can see a thumbs up. Yes. So Msengeti came first. Msengeti, please share some of your lessons.
Yeah, I don't know if this is any better, although I'm still on the road. Is it better?
Clear now? I think it is.
So thanks, Dottie. The example I was giving was in reference to how we can actually create policies, we can create systems for other women by being bold enough to ask for something. And so I was referring to what Coletta did, just by her saying, is it possible to have a mother's room? Her bravery made way for other women. And this is something that I think for me really resonates, because a lot of the benefits we are enjoying now as women, and maybe even as men, came as a result of someone being bold enough to say, is it possible for this to happen? So another example is, of course, flexi hours. I'm sure in the past,
Breaking again.
You have
You're breaking again. Msengeti, you're breaking again.
Doesn't matter, maybe you're a new mom or whatever.
Msengeti, excuse me.
Colleague who,
Excuse me.
I'm breaking again. Yeah, anyways, so maybe let me end there, but the point I want.
She's still on. Okay, I think we lost her. She's on transit. She's on her way home. So the network connection is not stable, understandable. Hope she gets back and complete her share of the lessons she has learned. I saw Catherine Mate. Catherine Mate also raised her hand. Okay. She has requested that we just continue. She's heading home. The network is a problem. Catherine Mate, feel free to share with us some of the lessons you have learned. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Doti, and good evening to everyone. My name is Catherine Mate, and I attended the book launch. And I've also read a few chapters of the book. Two things that stand out for me. Number one, as women in leadership, the scale is not balanced with the other gender in terms of, if you both start from point A with your fellow counterpart being a man, by the time you get to the other end point, the woman goes through a lot of things, up and down. And like Radido pointed out clearly, on the scale of the women, you carry so much. Your leadership does not just end in your career, it also progresses on, even when transitions, actually, when you get to the house. So there is a lot more required of you, both in the office and in your other setup, or your other role as a mother and all other roles that you do at home. So as women, it's important to just discuss and see what are some of the challenges. Are they unique to yourself? Are they unique to other women? Are they unique to women in Kenya, women in Africa, women in the continent, women globally? And I think this is the first step in terms of discussing this. You realize how have other women gone about it and how have they excelled. Secondly, like you said, I believe in mentoring and reverse mentoring, where you have someone to walk through the journey with you, and you also pick someone. I remember from the meeting, there was one person who said, when you get up, make sure you send the lift down. So these are things that it's part of life, let me say that. And as women in leadership, or as women who aspire to be at the top where there's no glass ceiling, how then do we navigate that? So it's important. I think this is a very important lesson and a very good discussion, so that we have more of this and women heading to the top or at the top, and the challenges or the positives, the negatives that they've gone through, it's important to share that. So I think the first thing, having the book was a first step on the right direction, and to many more. Secondly, I also want to give a very insightful point that I went through reading some of the chapters. If you look at some of the readers, what stood out for me was their childhood. A lot of leadership is not when we become who we are at the moment at our current age. It starts from way back. It's just that when we are going through childhood, we don't realize that actually that shapes our childhood. So for me, I'd want us as listeners here to really take a moment and think about the children that we have at home. And how then do we shape their leadership journey? Our leadership journey was sort of influenced by our parents. So you really didn't have much of a childhood choice, but a lot of the choices, positive and negative, you have either changed the narrative as you've grown older. But for the children, now that we stand in the middle between our children, ourselves, and our parents, what are we able to do? What are the lessons that we learn? How should I teach my children about money skills at the tender age? How should I teach my children about confidence? How should I teach my children about honesty, about values? So those are some of the things that I've picked up from the book, that leadership does not start when you start your career. I think that's the notion we all have, but leadership starts even from the early ages. So some of the lessons that the leaders build on were actually cultivated when they were very young in their innocence. So my take home on that is that even as we navigate through the careers, as we navigate through life and family, if we have a chance to impact the little ones in terms of our relatives, our family, our children, let's pick up that leadership and impart from a very young age. Then that way we set the pace for the futures, for the leaders of the future. Thank you.
You, Catherine, you have come out very clear. There are people around us, just other than our children, we have cousins, we have people in our community. If we are staying in the estates, we have children in the estate, how we behave, how we carry out ourselves, how we interact with them would just influence themselves towards a particular direction. I agree with you that some of the authors have indicated that the people they have become were nurtured in their tender ages. You hear somebody talking about, I learned this from my father. My father was this, my mother was this. My mother used to tell me stories, and that helped me to develop the love for reading and things like that. My father was a timekeeper or a good time manager, and so I learned this from my father. So it is very true what you have said, and we pray that God will help us that we don't just learn and keep to ourselves, because now we know what to do, then we go out there and do exactly that. I want to share with us a quote from chapter 3 by Irene Karuga. This quote is by Jack Welch. And it goes, when you were made a leader, you weren't given a crown. You were given the responsibility to bring out the best in others. When you were made a leader, you were not given a crown. You were given the responsibility to bring out the best in others. Sometimes we can rise so high until we think we have made it. John C. Maxwell says that if you're living and there's no one following, then you're simply taking a walk in the park. How many people around us are we impacting their lives? Who are we influencing? Just according to what Catherine Mate has shared, leadership is being given the responsibility to bring out the best in others. You're only as good as a leader as the people who are under your leadership. So when we want to evaluate leadership, we'll hardly look at who you are. We'll hardly look at what you do. We can see a reflection of the same on the people that are under you. So yes, I agree with you. Let us be intentional about impacting the young people around us. Could be young in age, could be young in career, but we can positively influence their lives if we will fully choose to. Allow me to again say thank you for everyone who has joined. Those whose networks are trying to bring trouble, we understand you. We appreciate your presence. Elishaba, we appreciate your presence and participation. We know the struggle while on transit, network instability can be a serious problem. Anyone else having something they want to share? It doesn't matter if you have already shared one, you can still share another and another and another. Even as we continue, something I'm learning is about mental wellness. Mental wellness. And as Kellen puts it, Kellen is the author of chapter 5, I think, chapter 5. She says, leadership magnifies all our strengths, weaknesses, and insecurity. And she proceeds to say, do not allow unresolved events to hold you back. Confront them and replace them with what you want to see. You know, we should not allow unresolved events, the things that probably were not complete, the things that probably were not what we really wanted, those that worked against us, that we should not let them hold us back. Instead, we should confront them and replace them with what exactly we want to see. And how do you that? She talks about setting priorities right. You know, set your priorities right. Know what you want to achieve first, what to come next, and what can wait. So set your priorities right. If you're going to have mental wellness, establish boundaries. Just show people how far they can go with you. You know, we show people how to treat us. Actually, I believe that I show people how to treat us. In this world, it is very common that what you give is what you get. I know there's situations where we have given our best, but got opposite in return. But commonly, what you give is what you get. It is our responsibility as people in family, in careers, to show people exactly how we want them to treat us, how far we can go with them, how far they can come in. So we must establish our boundaries. And she also proceeds to say that we should learn to say no. You know, we can't be yes, yes kind of a people if we are ever going to grow, because that will then mean you never even have time for your own self. Learn to say no so that you can also have some free time for yourself. Like we said, personal being indicators, so that you can also know when you can just be alone or find yourself doing something that you love just to nourish your soul. So if you're going to have mental wellness, we have to establish boundaries, we have to set priorities, and we have to learn to say no. Sometimes it's difficult to say no, but when you practice it, then you become good at it and you will know when to say no. Of course, there are exceptional situations where we can sacrifice our personal time to intervene, maybe to help out, but not always. You know, I'm not dismissing the fact that sometimes things happen out of the norm that requires you to maybe forgo something that is so dear to you to be able to save a situation. So we should be very careful that we are mentally healthy. We exercise, you know, we eat right, but how do we handle our mental situation, our mental issues, you know? So knowing that leadership magnifies everything about us, your strength will be there in the open. Once you're a leader, you're open for everyone, you're an open book for everyone to read, and people can see through your strength, they can see through your weaknesses and even your fears. So be careful to just make sure that you're mentally healthy, even as much as you grow financially, also grow mentally healthy. Thank you so much. Talking about attitude, as I wait for someone to raise their hand to share with us another lesson, you know, the writer of the eighth chapter, that should be Michelle, you know, talked about accepting constructive feedback, accepting constructive feedback. And she elaborated on this, you know, it's not very easy for a normal person to take criticism with ease. Mostly we feel like it is an attack on our personality, it is just a mere attack on us, but from positive, constructive feedback, then we can know how to go about how to do better next time, how to go about some of the challenges that probably we are dealing with even in our growth. So we are encouraged to take positively constructive feedback. Don't be a person who cannot be given any feedback. You know, if you become a know-it-all, nobody is an island. And by the way, when we serve people, we expect them to respond. When we are in leadership position, we are not serving ourselves, we are serving the people. And their response can help us to be better leaders. So we are encouraged to be a people who can take feedback positively, accept and act on the ones that need change. As much as we desire positive feedback, there's going to always be some negative but constructive feedback. So learn to accept such kind of feedback. That is a lesson for me. I'm one person who struggles, I'm still struggling, but I'll get there with the feedback. I don't want the feedback, but I think I fear the manner in which the feedback is presented, you know. So I'm one person who can beat myself, you know. Someone can send me into stress that can develop into depression by just giving me a feedback in a negative way. And I know many women out there are dealing with this kind of a feeling, but I'm learning to accept feedback, whether it is what I want to hear or not. After all, they watched me perform. After all, it is them that I served. So whatever they're saying to me, I should take positively and seek to know which areas need improvement so that I can work on them. I'm back to you. If you still have a lesson you want to share today, you're very welcome. The floor is open. If you have something you want to say, we also welcome comments. If it is just a comment you want to say, feel free to do so. Thank you for sticking around. Catherine Mate, Elshiba Msengeti, Glory Sereti, Sianto Kekayaya, thank you so much for staying. Yes, thank you. So, Lady Elishiba Msengeti has not been able to stay on because of internet issues, but she has written something about what she would have loved to share with us. And she says, my point was about bravery, was about how bravery can pave way for others. For example, asking for a mother's room, asking for flexi hours. So we should not be afraid to ask, because our ask will be what leads to policy or system changes that could be impactful for others even beyond our generations or our immediate environment. What we are enjoying now is a result of some brave women asking and pushing for changes in the society, in the workplace, and everywhere else. So she's saying we should not just sit back and see things going wrong, or sit back with ideas that could help change some systems and policy that may not just be beneficial to the current generation, but to several coming after us. And she has highlighted that even we should know that some of the things we enjoy now, somebody spoke out, somebody gave an idea, somebody gave a suggestion, and that is why the policies and the systems were made that are now favoring us. Thank you so much, Msengeti. We appreciate you. Despite the struggle with the internet, you are determined that we get to hear what you wanted to share. We appreciate you. Anyone? Anyone having any more thing to say? I said it's okay to say something more on top of what you have already said. Do not hold back. It is that very thing you're feeling in your heart to share with us that we want to hear. Like I said, when you hear it from someone else other than the author, then that is a second hearing. Okay, there's so many lessons to learn from. I know we are sharing based on what we have read and what stood out for us. One thing that I know many women fear, or maybe I'm one of the few that fear, is taking risks. You know, taking risks. But we are encouraged that we should be willing to take risks even when there are threats or resistance. We are often cowed down. We shrink. We don't want to venture into new areas of business, you know, like just starting up a business. You so much think about what if it doesn't work? What if I don't make enough money to pay for this place? What if this and this happens? What this and this? And then maybe you really had a very lucrative business idea, but you find yourself just dropping it because you're afraid of taking risks, you know? I know I'm not alone. Taking risk is not something easy, but we are encouraged if we are ever going to grow, we are going to take risks or remain in the same place. So we have a choice to either take a risk and start something, either take a risk and go for that position, take a risk and open up a business, take a risk and do something. If at all we are ever going to grow from the places or the positions we are now, then we have to be a people who take risk. And that comes with resilience, you know. Resilience is a survival strategy that we must adopt. Sorry, I was reading a message. You know, the book is talking about women navigating challenges, embracing resilience and agility, and redefining leadership success. It means leadership had been defined before, but it looks like something was missing about it. So we as women are redefining leadership. But without resilience, without agility, you know, then it may not be possible. So we should develop resilience. Don't be a people who easily give up. I remember I once started some business. It was a great risk for me. It was a great risk for me, but I ventured into it anyway. And I think I saw the end from the beginning, or maybe it is fear that resulted to what it was, or to what it came to, because it didn't last so long. And then I was like, I was right. You know, I should just never start anything. I should just never take risks because this one did not work. But a resilient person will say, this one did not work, but I'm trying something else. I'm going at it again. I am not giving up. Resilience does not give up. It keeps going until it achieves whatever it wants to achieve. So we are encouraged as women to be resilient. Let us keep going. Let us keep pushing. Let us not give up after first attempt. We can attempt the second time and the third time and see something come out of it. Our effort will be rewarded. Back to us again. I'm not seeing any hand. Have we exhausted our lessons so far? Is there something you still feel you want to share with us as we continue to read the book? Yes, Dorso.
Well, thank you so much, Dottie. I just want to make a comment about that concept you've just been talking about, the whole idea of redefining. And it's important for us to look at it that way, because we are trying to disrupt a norm, a cultural norm, a perspective norm, a practice norm, expectation norm. You know, there are so many norms that have been placed around that have created what is considered normal realities for women, and disrupting them means that we are going to be rewriting the rules. So I'm going to read a bit of what is captured in the introduction that I did here, which has the essence of what this whole push for redefining, you know, comes from. So there is this paragraph 2 of the introduction that says, surprisingly, many women are told from a very young age that they are indeed women or female, and that's a very important thing to talk about. Many women discover that they are through being told, and this comes to them from a very young age. You know, you're a girl, you're supposed to be this. You know, you're a lady, you're supposed to be this. You know, you're female, you're supposed to be that, etc. So it comes to them through being told. One of the questions that I like asking women when I talk to them is, when did you learn that you're a woman, and who told you that? Because it remains a powerful script that continues to control people's lives for a very long time. And the question of who tells you or who told you that is very important. I think it even appears in the creation story when God was asking Adam and Eve when they were hiding, who told you that? So that telling, or that voice that comes into our lives in certain ways, provides a very, very powerful script, very, very powerful conditioning, and very powerful reference points that continue to influence our lives, either knowingly or unknowingly. They continue to speak to us and guide how we play out, or how we navigate, or how we dispense ourselves around life. So most women learn about their gender through these messages, often crafted as warnings about what makes them different from men, what they're supposed to do, what they are not supposed to do, and what they are supposed to do differently because they are women. And these have been expertly referred to as gender roles or gender expectations. And those are very important things, especially in the context we live in, the culture, African culture. There is a lot of subtle gender expectations and gender roles that people are naturally expected to flow into and assume and perform. So that if you don't do that, you look different. And therefore, when you talk about redefining, you're looking at some of those things. This conditioning continues to influence and shape their lives in very powerful ways and follows them in nearly all spheres of their lives. Women continue to hear voices that prescribe who they are supposed to be, what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do things, or they often run into walls and ceilings and road signs that determine what is expected of them. In many spaces, these voices have been translated into systemic cultures, protocols, and practices that trap women in defined, restricted realities that either limit their potential, hinder their maximum utilization of their resourcefulness, or frustrate their natural progression and upward mobility. So that the urge to redefine is actually coming from that background, from that context. What has been done by those who have gone ahead, or those who have done whatever they have done, is actually a way of redefining realities. Today we have new realities, like it's okay in Kenya today to have a female chief justice, and just a while ago it has now been okayed to have a female attorney general, the first since the country gained independence. So future generations will not struggle with the idea or the reality, or so there's some noise out here, but future realities will not struggle with the idea of a female attorney general, or a female CJ, chief justice, etc. We are hoping that in our lifetime we'll get to see a female president. so that we redefine some of these things and we make it okay for them to recur or for them to occur, for them to repeat themselves, etc., etc. So the things that have been done by those who have gone ahead, which were not normal previously or have not been normalized in our lives, should now be the things we are pushing toward, even as we redefine. And as I said, it is a bit disruptive, but it is a better disruption, because if it is a disruption that unlocks possibilities and unlocks resourcefulness and unlocks progress and growth and new energy and new collaborations and partnerships, then that's a good thing that we are supposed to be doing. And in my mind, I know that if we are able to harness the resourcefulness that have been limited by these realities that we are now trying to disrupt, then we are better able to boost our competitiveness on the global space, boost our competitiveness regionally, and even just increase our productivity and enhance the kind of the quality of life we are living and the value that we are generating within ourselves. So there is a lot of redefining that happens. I've heard some of you speak about certain lessons that you pick from the ladies that have spoken or the chapters that you have read, which to me are sounding like disruptive redefining. Somebody shook your world with a new truth that you probably had never embraced or had never practiced. And now it has become a new reality. It has become a possibility. It has become something that is to be considered in your considerations of how you're going to deploy yourself, which is a very, very powerful thing to do. So redefining is one of the things we hope to achieve this. And we actually, in my opinion, want to redefine and bring it back to what was supposed to be natural, so that from there we can begin to even uplift ourselves to the next level and imagine better than we have seen so far. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Doso. Anyone else? Anyone else having something more to share? If not, I think we are coming to the end of our session today. There's a lot more to learn from this book, even as we continue to read. We have not exhausted all the questions today. We have just shared from what we have read, and there's a lot more we can learn from the book. So if you have not read it in full, continue reading. You can choose, the chapters are not in any particular order. Each chapter is completely independent and complete on its own. So you can read, maybe if you find the title interesting or inviting, just make sure that you read from each one of them, because from every writer, there are great insights there, there are great lessons there that can have some impact on your life as a woman, and of course on your career. So do we have any other person wanting to share something? Unfortunately, today we don't have questions because the authors are not here. So today we will not take any questions, but we look forward to having another session coming week. It should be announced to us prior to the day, so we will know what to expect. If you need to buy the books, there's a link that has been shared. You can, if you don't have the book, you want to buy for a friend, if you need the book, there's a link that has been shared. You can make your orders, or you can also contact Mr. Doso Radido. You can inbox him. You can click the link and it will help you to make an order for the book. There being no other business, Mr. Doso, do you have something to say?
Well,
He has also shared.
Yeah, I've shared
Yes, go ahead.
the link for anybody who wants to get a copy of the book, and also share the number you can call in case you need assistance. Just to thank guys, you share the lessons you're picking, and I'm glad that you're picking lessons. There is a time we didn't have stories from amongst ourselves that would be encouraging, inspiring, or serve as a reference point. But these days, we are fixing that problem. And therefore, getting to hear what you're learning and how that is impacting on you is very encouraging. And thank you so much for being bold to come on board and share what you're learning. That's right, for doing a very good job. You've done an excellent job, Dottie. You have steered us very well with a lot of grace and tact, and that's very beautiful. So as you have correctly said, we hope to have a lot more of these conversations even in the coming weeks. We are likely to have one or more authors joining us in the webinars that are upcoming. We had actually hoped to have one today, but due to some unavoidable circumstances, she was not able to make it. But of course, because we have recorded this conversation, should there be anything that needs their attention, they will be able to attend to it next time we are having a meeting. It is our intention that through this conversation, we get to inspire, to challenge, to remind, to provoke, and help as many as can be with useful tips on how to navigate, so that it becomes practically possible for us to access and unlock the resources, the resourcefulness that is trapped within the many women that are existing within our spaces and that are aspiring to contribute value in our lives. I've shared the link to the book. In case you need the book, please just click that link. In case you have any other issue that you may need attended to, you can call that number. We are also working on a couple of other volumes. We'll be making announcements when we get to a place where announcements can be made. But we are still looking out for those lessons and those stories and those experiences, and trying to package them in a way that can be accessible and useful to as many of you as possible. Now, as I speak, I'm just reminded of the volumes we have done. We have done a couple of other volumes that touches on other subject areas. We have a series of books called the She Leads books or book volumes, where we just have general lessons from women in leadership. So if you need to read any of those, you can also visit our website. I'm just going to drop the link so you can check the website and see. We have 4 volumes of the She Leads book, which has featured more than 70 women leaders. The different volumes, each volume has about 15 or between 15 and 18. So those books have also very, very useful tips that somebody can learn from. They are not specifically talking about how we write. They're just talking about the general experiences. They have picked general lessons they have picked from their leadership, and quite useful for any one of you who is desiring to become better than you are today. So if you need them, you can also visit that link that I've just shared there and be able to choose for yourself. We have up to 4 volumes as I speak to you. We may have one final volume coming out in a couple of months. But when we have that ready, we will be making an announcement about it. Otherwise, I want to thank all of you for sparing time, and I hope you have picked useful value. Whatever you have learned, make sure you put it into practice, and if possible, share with other people, empower other people around you, and let's have as many people as possible getting provoked, getting triggered, getting woken up, and getting pushed in the right direction, because that's how we will generate value within our ecosystem and be able to use that to power ourselves moving forward. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you so very much, everybody. I'll hand the meeting back to Dottie. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Radido, and thank you, everyone. It has been my pleasure being your host. My name is Dottie Achieng. Looking forward to seeing you again and again. Thank you. With that, we can come to the close of our webinar for today. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so very much.